November 2025, and ladies and gentlemen, the mask just slipped. Chuck Schumer, the man who spent weeks blaming Republicans, blaming Trump, blaming you, just snapped on live television. Not figuratively, I mean red-faced, finger-pointing, storming off the floor snapped. And so what really set Chuck Schumer off? It was the truth. Because for the first time, the Schumer shutdown isn't a GOP talking point. It is his nightmare. SNAP benefits are collapsing. Food stamp funding is days from running dry. And the same Democrats who promised to fight for working families, they're now playing politics with their dinner tables. Now, meanwhile, President Trump, calm, deliberate, methodical, has ordered his legal team to get clarity from the courts before acting, refusing to break the law, even as Democrats dare him to do so. I mean, he's feeding Americans with facts, not with fear. And this is what's driving Chuck Schumer and his cronies absolutely insane. But here's the part that the media won't touch. Behind the shouting and the shutdown lies a deeper scandal, one that ties SNAP, the border crisis, and the Democrats' desperate push for control into one very explosive story. Look, Chuck Schumer's meltdown wasn't random. It was a tell. It was a sign that the truth is getting too close. The truth about why billions are vanishing overseas, why illegal crossings keep climbing, and why the American people are being told that there's no money for food. Meanwhile, Washington funds everyone but you. Now, tonight, I'm going to pull back the curtain. You're about to see exactly how this SNAP scandal blew up the Schumer shutdown, how President Trump turned their trap into a masterstroke of leadership, and why the Democrats' house of cards may finally be crashing down. Buckle up, folks, because when you hear what's really actually sending Chuck Schumer running off that Senate floor, you're going to understand why this week in D.C. could change everything. This isn't politics. This is the collapse of a narrative and the beginning of a reckoning. Hit the like button and subscribe. Ladies and gentlemen, this wasn't just another bad day on Capitol Hill. This was the moment that the facade cracked. Cameras were rolling when Chuck Schumer, face red with fury, was asked one simple question. So what happens when SNAP runs out? And instead of answering, he exploded. Paper slammed, microphones cut. Schumer stormed out, the Senate floor echoing behind him. I mean, you could feel the tension. Democrats' entire shutdown narrative was collapsing in real time. The man who prided himself on control finally lost it, and Americans saw the truth. This wasn't leadership. This was desperation on full display. Now, the spark that lit the fire was SNAP, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. So now, weeks from running dry, there's roughly $6 billion left in contingency funds, but the program, it's burning $8 billion every month. Now, the math doesn't lie, folks. Millions of low-income families could lose benefits, and instead of fixing it, Democrats, they're holding the system hostage. So they would rather watch Americans go hungry than to let President Trump get credit for reopening the government. It's a scandal of priorities, not poverty. Now, Washington's elite dine in luxury, five-star dinners, five-star restaurants. Meanwhile, the people that they claim to fight for are left starving. Now, you already know that things are bad when even moderate Republicans start using your name as a synonym for failure. House Speaker Mike Johnson wasted no time dropping the hammer, calling it, quote unquote, the Schumer shutdown. And he brought receipts. On live TV, Mike Johnson held up a chart showing every vote Republicans passed to fund federal workers, to fund the troops, air traffic controllers, border agents, and yes, SNAP benefits. Every single one was blocked by Senate Democrats. I mean, you could feel the air shift in the room. Chuck Schumer had no defense, no counter argument, nothing but excuses, just excuses. In fact, the scoreboard was right there, and America saw who was really pulling the plug on the government. So while Chuck Schumer flailed, President Trump did what leaders do. He acted, but unlike Democrats, he followed the law. So Trump directed his legal team to petition the courts for authorization to release emergency funds for SNAP. Not political games, not illegal end runs, just lawful action to keep Americans fed. This is what real leadership looks like, guys. He even posted on Truth Social saying that it would be his honor to provide funding once the courts gave the green light. Calm, controlled, transparent. So while Schumer shouted, Trump strategized. One man's meltdown became another man's moment of strength, and it showed America the difference there. Now ask yourself this, is your Medicare plan helping your retirement or is it hurting it? Now, the wrong plan eats away at your savings year after year. This is why I partner with Chapter, because they make Medicare strengthen your retirement instead of draining it. Now, one of our viewers said to me, she said, Chapter saved me thousands. My Medicare plan finally works for me. So let me ask, do you want your retirement drained? Or do you want to do what most people already are and protect it? Now, most people are calling that phone number right there on the bottom of your screen, or they're visiting askchapter.org/Ron. Phone number again is 909-563-8279. Oh, and don't take my word for it. Raspa's channel left this comment down below. He said, I called Chapter and talked to a really nice lady whose name was Ashley. She got me a plan that cost me nothing with zero for all copays. And my plan covers my doctor and hospitals. Wow, that is absolutely amazing. Now, Schumer tried to recover from his meltdown by claiming that there was plenty of money left to fund SNAP, except there wasn't plenty of money. He insisted that $6 billion could somehow stretch across an $8 billion monthly program. That's not budgeting, guys. This is a pure fantasy. Reporters pressed him about it, and his answers spiraled. One moment he said it would last 3 weeks. The next he was blaming the House for not sending bills fast enough. But the numbers just didn't add up for him, and everybody knew it. His spin crumbled in real time. Even Democrat aides were whispering that their boss had lost the room. His credibility went up in flames instantly. And so right when things couldn't get any stranger, Amy Klobuchar stepped in with one of the weirdest diversions ever seen on the Senate floor. She brought up the Epstein files. No warning, no context, just dropped it mid-debate as Schumer fled. It was a transparent attempt to change the subject from food stamps to scandal. Democrats suddenly wanted to look like truth seekers on Epstein while ignoring millions of hungry Americans. You see the attempt there, right, guys? The public saw right through it. Instead of deflecting attention, it made the meltdown look even worse than it was, like a desperate party throwing out headlines to bury its own failures. And as the chaos unfolded, a bigger conversation started bubbling up across conservative America. What if this shutdown exposed something deeper about dependency itself? Commentators and policy experts argue that SNAP has become less about helping people climb out of hardship and more about trapping them in it. The Daily Signal called it a chance to restore America's spirit of charity. And they're right, guys. President Trump's message fits perfectly. Empower families, don't enslave them to red tape. Replace bureaucratic pity with private generosity. So while Democrats weaponize welfare for votes, Trump's America First vision builds independence, not reliance. And that is the contrast that couldn't be any more clear. Elon Musk and Joe Rogan broke this down perfectly. So on Joe Rogan's show, Elon Musk said that Democrats are using government benefits as magnets, like drawing in illegal immigrants who eventually vote their way. And so when the funding faucet shuts off, the flow stops. And that's why the left panics. This is why Democrats are panicking today. It is not compassion, it's strategy. SNAP funds, sanctuary programs, and open borders are all part of the same political machine. The more dependency that they create, the more power that they hold. That is the connection that no one in corporate media dares to admit. And now with President Trump cutting off that incentive, their whole system is starting to crack. Now, President Trump's border policies have flipped the script. Gone are the days of chaos and surrender that defined the Biden era. Under President Trump's new directives, enforcement's back, walls are rising again, and the Border Patrol morale is surging. But here's what's really eating up at Chuck Schumer. These wins expose everything that the Democrats got wrong. For years, they claimed compassion while funding sanctuary states and turning a blind eye to crime and trafficking. So now with President Trump restoring order, their talking points are collapsing. Chuck Schumer knows full border funding under President Trump makes every Democrat policy from 2021 to 2024 look like a complete failure. And so even in a divided Congress, one message is now crystal clear. Republicans are done playing hostage to Chuck Schumer's tactics. Vice President J.D. Vance and Senator Josh Hawley have been hammering this point. Stop using hungry families as bargaining chips. Fund the people, not the politics, they say, right? It's a unifying rally cry that's spreading very fast, even drawing quiet nods from a few moderate Democrats who've had enough of Chuck Schumer's games. In fact, the longer this shutdown drags on, the more it looks like a power grab instead of a standoff. And this is why the GOP has never looked this focused or this united. Drop a power grab down below if you think the Democrats are using this shutdown as a power grab. Now, the numbers tell the story that Chuck Schumer doesn't want you to see. Look, internal DNC polls now leaking all over Washington. They show Democrat approval hitting record lows while President Trump's ratings soar. In fact, congressional Democrats are polling worse today than at any time in modern history. Independent voters are switching sides very fast, tired of these excuses and performative outrage. And inside the party, it's panic. Staffers whisper about leadership fatigue. Some Democrats want Chuck Schumer replaced entirely. The meltdown wasn't just emotional, it was political survival. The Chuck Schumer shutdown is now costing them not just credibility, but their very base that they took for granted. And so when this meltdown hit, legacy media did what it always does: spin. Look, CNN, MSNBC, the New York Times rushed to label it Republican crisis, but the facts were way too strong. Look, House Speaker Mike Johnson's vote tally was undeniable. Then came the kicker: leaked DNC memos revealing Chuck Schumer's office had coordinated talking points with friendly networks to shift the blame. So once that hit social media, the damage was already done. Americans started tuning out the noise and trusting their own eyes. The press tried to bury the truth, but only ended up burying it itself deeper. The narrative was gone, and Schumer knew it. So while Democrats played blame games, President Trump did something that Washington forgot how to do. He led with integrity. His message was simple: we'll fund SNAP the right way, through the courts, not through political stunts. He refused to weaponize hunger for headlines. This is when even critics had to admit Trump looked presidential, while Schumer looked petty. He focused on feeding families, not feeding narratives. Trump's words, "It would be my honor to provide funding," it hit home with working class families. In a swamp where compassion is usually counterfeit, President Trump proved that leadership isn't about emotion. It's about doing what's right when it actually matters. Now, the same lawlessness that's fueling the shutdown fuels our border chaos. Democrats ignored spending caps just like they ignored immigration laws. This is the same mindset, guys. Bypass the rules, grab power, then blame somebody else. The Heritage Foundation warned this months ago. Open borders and fiscal recklessness are two sides of the same coin. They both weaken American sovereignty, and Schumer's meltdown proves it. The moment that he was cornered on both SNAP and immigration, he cracked, because deep down, he already knows that this isn't about compassion. This is about control. And so when you strip away the rhetoric, their entire agenda looks like one big invasion of power. Now, behind closed doors, even Democrats are questioning whether or not Chuck Schumer's time is up. His meltdown wasn't just a bad clip. It was a turning point. Party insiders are reportedly furious that Schumer let emotion overshadow strategy, turning the shutdown fight into a personal implosion. Several senators, quietly of course, are floating names for potential replacements in leadership before the 2026 midterms. Now, the optics are brutal. The top Democrat in the Senate running from reporters, snapping at colleagues, and losing control of his own caucus. It is no longer about policy. Now it is about survival. Schumer's grip on power has never looked weaker. Now, across the country, Americans are finally speaking up, and they're furious. They're mad. Millions are watching clips of Schumer storming out, seeing through the excuses. Social media is flooded with comments from working families saying, "I'm paying more for groceries while Congress argues about optics." Others are praising Trump's steady leadership and calling out Democrat hypocrisy. One viral post summed it up: they've got money for migrants, but not for meals. Now that line right there hit home. You can feel it. People are done being manipulated. The anger isn't just political anymore. It is personal. And this awakening might be the Democrats' biggest nightmare. Now, Chuck Schumer's explosion wasn't just about SNAP or spending. It was about exposure. For decades, Washington elites have hidden behind polished speeches and media filters. But this time, the mask slipped. Americans saw the rage, the arrogance, the panic of a man watching the narrative collapse right in front of him. It symbolized something much bigger: the end of the establishment's illusion of control. So when Chuck Schumer snapped, when Chuck Schumer cracked, it wasn't just a bad day in the Senate. It was a signal that the old guard is losing its grip. The swamp is fracturing under the weight of its own lies, and no amount of spin can patch it back together. So at the end of the day, the truth couldn't be buried. Chuck Schumer's shutdown, it wasn't caused by Republicans or Trump or conservatives. It was caused by arrogance. One man's pride just cost millions their peace of mind. But through it all, President Trump showed restraint, discipline, and real leadership. The facts won, lawfulness won, the American people won. Democrats tried to starve the nation into submission and ended up starving their own credibility instead. Now, the Schumer meltdown will now go down as the moment that the narrative cracked and America woke up. Ladies and gentlemen, stay vigilant, like, share, and subscribe, because the truth just keeps breaking.